Hey there, Holly Perkins. So today I have for you one of my absolute favorite new recipes. So as you may know, if you've been following me, I'm a huge caffeine fan. Caffeine has its ups and its downs, its goods and its bads. So we know that caffeine is really great for brain acuity, mental tasks, giving you a boost of energy, and it can also be good pre-workout because it's what we call an analgesic. It actually reduces the amount of pain that you are perceiving you're feeling from your workout. So we know that caffeine before a workout can be very beneficial. It helps to save carbohydrates and free up fatty acids for your workout. Now, we all process caffeine differently, so you do have to be careful not to get too much. If you're very sensitive to caffeine, make sure that you avoid it after noon or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But most of the days, if I have my caffeine in the morning, I love it because like you, I'm sure, there's nothing better than that morning cup of coffee or morning cup of hot tea where you get that boost of caffeine. It's like the lights come on, my brain turns on, and the world is just amazing. So I definitely have a love affair with caffeine, and this is one of my favorite recipes for the best morning brain reset. Okay, so do you ever have those mornings that are particularly groggy? Every now and then, I think it part of the territory of being a woman, but every now and then I wake up and I have a morning where I'm really sluggish, I'm having a hard time getting it going, I can't get my brain going, and I just sort of have maybe like a blue mood, or I just feel like I really need something to kick my butt and get me into gear. So I discovered this recipe, and if you use it a particular way, which I'll share with you on my blog, it's an amazing brain reset, and it legitimately works both because of the caffeine component in the beverage, but also on a biochemical level to really optimize brain function. This recipe is great as a morning substitution for your coffee, and you can also use it as a meal substitute because of course it has a hefty dose of protein in it. I'm going to show you the ingredients and how to make it in just a moment, but before we get there, I want to give you a little bit of theory behind why I like this. This recipe comes from a recipe called Bulletproof Coffee, which you may or may not heard of. But if you've heard people talking about coffee where you add butter to it and kind of raise your eyebrows and think, that sounds silly, I did the same thing. When I first heard about Bulletproof Coffee, I rolled my eyes and I said, what is the point of that? There's no reason to be putting oil and butter in coffee. It's just a ton of calories. It turns out I did a bunch of research, and I did a lot of anecdotal research on myself, and I found out there are actually several different reasons why this concoction actually does spur certain reactions in your body and in your brain. In particular, if you use a really high quality fresh coffee, you're going to see in a moment that I will use freshly ground organic beans. It makes a big difference. In particular, the author of Bulletproof Coffee, Dave Asprey, has come up with his own, let's say, varietal of coffee beans, and I have found that it actually does make a difference. I'm one of those people who tends to have a lot of fallout later in the day whenever I'm drinking caffeine, and I have found that if I use his coffee beans or another high quality organic bean, it really does help to alleviate the fallout that I feel later in the day. So first, you need to start with a high quality whole bean and grind it fresh. I'll show you that in a minute. Secondly, we're going to brew it in a French press style. Why? Because it's one of the best ways to protect some of the antioxidants and some of the nutrition that comes from coffee. It also makes a really strong cup of coffee, so it makes this recipe even better. We're going to add to it unsalted butter, organic butter, or ghee. Ghee is basically just a super clarified version of butter, and I prefer using ghee in this concoction, mostly because it's a high quality fat. Along with that, we're going to be using what's called brain octane, which is a high caprylic acid MCT oil. Two reasons for both of those. I'm finding these days so many people are afraid of eating saturated fat and cholesterol that we've really started to avoid getting some of those hearty fats that we get from animal products. And that is why I really love using butter or ghee in this concoction, because for hormonal health and for brain structures, there is actually a lot of benefit to having some cholesterol and some saturated fat in your diet. Has to be in moderation. If you have heart disease, that's a different conversation. But for most of us, we're getting so many almonds, avocado oil, olive oil, all of these unsaturated healthy fats, and we're forgetting that we also do need to be getting some saturated fats that include cholesterol. And I find that by adding some ghee into my diet, it has really helped on many, many levels. So we'll get to the recipe in just 1 minute. And the last ingredient is protein powder. You can use any kind of protein powder that you want, vanilla or chocolate. Today I'm using a beef protein powder, and that's just because I use so many powders in my life and I have to take a break from different ones. I'll cycle through whey protein powder, egg white protein powder, and right now I'm cycling through beef protein powder. And believe it or not, it actually does taste really good. It seems strange, but it's great. First ingredient is 8 ounces of fresh boiling water. And then what you want to do is you want to add that to the freshly ground coffee beans. I use actually quite a bit of coffee grinds. It's probably about 3 tablespoons because I like the coffee really, really strong, and it also gives that little extra boost of caffeine. So just slowly pour the hot water over the coffee grounds. And then you want to use a wooden spoon or stick to give it just a gentle stir for about 4 or 5 quick little stirs. Don't over stir it. You want to basically preserve the coffee beans. And then you're going to set your timer for 4 minutes and simply let it steep. So then while that is steeping, what I do is I prepare my blender. So it really helps to use a high-powered blender because in order to get the butter to emulsify into the coffee and to get the protein to blend, it really works best if you do it in a blender. Okay, 4 minutes is up. So our coffee is beautifully steeped. We're just gonna add that into the blender. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna add to that the 1 tablespoon of ghee and 1 tablespoon of an MCT oil or a high caprylic coconut oil. I like to use something called brain octane because it's higher in caprylic acid than most MCT oil. It just really helps your brain get into a better place of high functioning. We'll leave it at that, a very simple manner. So then we're gonna add to it 1 scoop of whatever your favorite protein powder is, and then we're gonna blend. Okay, now we have our fresh hot cup of coffee. It's amazing. So you'll see it comes out as this thick, creamy, rich, hot cup of coffee. It literally is like the thickest, creamiest cup of coffee that you will ever have. And it's amazing. If you get the right protein powder that's just like a little bit sweet and not too much flavor, it's like a hot coffee milkshake. It's amazing. So I want to share with you exactly how I use this because I don't use it just as a substitute for coffee. I really use it strategically to get my brain into a place where I really have super brain power. So check out my blog and I'm going to share with you how and when to drink this exactly so that you can utilize it to help reset your brain. And I'm going to share with you just a little bit more of the science conversation about why this kind of beverage is helpful. It's not the holy grail, but it's a great alternative. It's a great way to drink your coffee, and it's something that you can use in your day when you just need that little extra boost. So, cheers.